Okay. Okay, like I said, today we are going to be looking at this string exercises. Because the main thing about programming is that programming is used to solve problem, right? So it's not something that I just use to understand the programming language. Yeah, but you need to be able to use the tool the skill that you learn to actually solve real world problem. So, and it start with JavaScript. Everything we learn actually will start from small. Okay, so start with simple problems like this, just to learn about how to think about going, how to produce a solution. Now, the thing about programming is that, like I mentioned in the very first class, is that um, when you have a programming language, and the programming language is just used to express, to send a message, okay, to give an instruction to the computer, right? Just do this, do that, do this. That means that if you are giving an instruction to someone, which means you know how to do the thing. Do you understand? So computer will not automatically just solve a problem. Technically in AI now, that's the case, but generally, computer does not just solve a problem. Okay. The problem that computer solve is when you type in a computer solution to a problem, you know the solution. You are just interpreting it to the computer, instructing the computer how to solve it. Okay, so there's no, if you don't know a solution, if you don't know how to do this, for instance, write a program that prints each character in a string on a separate line. When you get a problem like this, the first thing you need to do is what does this mean, right? So you need to first of all understand the problem. Okay, so once you understand the problem, you now know how to solve it. So how do you understand the problem? You have to look at some examples. Okay, and I'm teaching you guys like a general case. Okay, how you should approach all your programming problems. So this is a statement that has been made. Okay, this statement, it looks very clear, but sometimes it may be ambiguous. So you have to really take a look at it to really understand what it is. Okay, so I look at it from write a program that prints each character in a string on a separate line. So what does this mean? Okay, so it mentioned a string here. So you will not always see the term string, right? Sometimes you're given a problem. In fact, most of the cases you're given a problem, you don't know if it's, you have to, based on the problem and your knowledge of the data type, you know that this is a string that you need to use. Okay, but this one is very clear that in a character, print each character in a string. Okay, so how do you do this? You need to try to understand the problem first. So if I have a string like mine as input, so I'll give myself some example. Okay, so the output should be, I'm just putting on a different line. So the output should be, let's take like this. No, this won't work. Drive to M, and then okay, I'm just doing like this. The output should be M, and on the next line we have I, and the next line we have K, and the next line we have E. And usually in an interview, right, if they give you a problem like this, you have to bring out this example and ask the interviewer, is it what you mean? Do you understand? But most of the time, right, since we are solving question, it's not an interview situation, right? So we don't need to ask, or we can't ask anybody, right? We just have to like try this example and to really see, is it what they really want? And then when you go back and look at the question, you see that okay, that is really what they want, because they said write a program that print each character in a string on a separate line. So I have a string here, and I can see on each line I have these characters. Okay, so you have now understood the problem. So now is the time to solve it. So how do you then solve this problem? Okay, so you now think of, okay, what do I need to tell the computer to be able to solve this problem? What are the tools that I have for me to be able to solve this problem? Okay, you now think about strings. Okay, for a string, how can it is a string, the characters are together. Okay, how can I get each of these characters in a string? Okay, so if I have a character now in a string, I'll say, let me say, I'll just call it const world No, what this? This is say maths, for instance. Okay. So how do I get access to each of these characters? So one way I can do this, of course, is just basically, okay, let's use this example that we already have. So let me just use so that I'm confused. So one way I can do this is to get each of these characters in a string. Okay. I can say where there are 4 characters. Yes, I'll say const first. I'll go to word and get the one I put. Remember, each of the characters have their own position. The first one is position 0 and so on and so forth. Okay. So const second. Now this name I'm calling them first, second, they're arbitrary. So I just call things that make sense, right? First character, second character, yeah. But if it's something else, I won't say use first or second. So just something that makes sense to it, right? So I'll say const again, third. Yeah, because you are now the one expressing the solution to the computer because you know how to get each character from it in the string. Okay, so I'll say const. Okay, so I can now say console.log first, console.log second, console.log. Because I already know how to print something on the screen, right? I know it's console.log. I just need to put a thing inside that. No, not true. Okay. Of course, I have to end them with a semicolon to show that at the end of the statement. Okay, so I'll do another one. So okay, so technically this should give me the answer, but let's check. Of course, since we're running our code in the browser, so we have to open our HTML and then run our code and see what happens. So yeah, string in JavaScript. So in our HTML, we always try to write something so that we know that, okay, this is actually running. Okay. So of course we have to go and open our inspect and go to console. And then we see nothing. Okay. Who can tell me why there's nothing here? Looking at the HTML. Why is it that our code is not printing out anything? And you're going to run into this issue over and over. Okay. So, okay. So the question is, the answer is simple. There is not, the HTML is not aware of the JavaScript. Okay. So the HTML is not, remember, if you are running your JavaScript, you have to include it in the HTML. Okay. So I have to include script. That closing tag script. And how do you include it? You go to the opening tag and write an attribute source, src code, and then type in the name of the file. So in this case, because they're in the same directory, so we just type in the name. So say string dash. You can see I don't put any space, right? So if you need a space, you have to put a dash or something, okay? Or underscore and arrays.js. Okay, so let's go back. And then we have our thing here. So it solved the problem, right? So the problem says, this description says, write a program that print each character in a string on a separate line. Okay. But this, now taking a look at it, this gives you the answer. But the answer, does it really, is that how you want to solve this? How about, what if I have a word like this? In fact, if I not just a word now, I have a sentence. Okay. Or let's just say statement. That says data, let's say, okay, machine learning is the science and art of extracting information from data. Okay, so imagine now you have to print out each of the characters here on a separate line. So how many how many of these how many of these variables are we going to declare? Okay, let's even check. So that means that, okay, let me just do this. Let me just print out. Remember how to print out the number of characters in a string. Okay, so I'll just do statement dot length. Of course, I need to print, I need to show that, I need to be sure that this is what I'm printing. So I'll put a label here. Num of characters. Remember, if you are printing something in a string directly like this, it's going to show what you have. So num of characters, we're going to see that, but then we're going to see the content here. Okay, let's see. And let's say 75. It doesn't make sense. All right, so am I going to type in 75, create 75 variables? That is insane. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, which means though this gives us a right answer, but it gives us the correct answer, but it's not scalable, or it's not yeah, let's just say it's not scalable because we can't extend it to more string. And we don't have, when we're solving problems, we don't want to solve problems like that that will only work for 2 letters, 3 letters. No, any problem you're solving in computer, you need to extend it for a whole set. Like imagine your Google search can only search for maybe what is machine learning. After if it's not that, it won't give you. If you search for something else, so anything you search in Google will always give you an answer. Okay, so it's not made for one particular question or one particular search term. It's made for general. So, and that's how we solve computer problem, right? We don't solve problem for only a small set of values. Like, okay, you have 4 letters here, we solve for that one. No, when we are solving our problems, but when we try to solve, when we are solving the problem, we have to try to solve for small cases. Okay, that's the thinking around it. Okay, you have to solve for small cases, then extend it to larger cases, right? Now, this is a very small case, which is just 4 letters. Okay, but if I have to extend to a larger case, it means that, oh, this does not really work. Okay, this does not work because it's going to take me 75 variables to declare. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so I'm going to comment out all of this because it doesn't make sense, of course. Okay, and try to solve the problem differently. Okay, so this is going to bring us to the idea of, so how do we solve this problem? We can see we are printing each character in a string. We're going through the string, each character through the index. And you can see here that we are just, the only thing that's changing in this word here is the index here. Okay, so if you do this up to 74, we'll be able to print out this. Okay, so the only thing that's changing here. So if that's the case, which means we're just repeating something. We're repeating the same thing or changing the particular value. Okay, so what do we do here? This brings us to the idea of loops. With what? Repetition. Repetition. Yeah, guys. So that's just basically want to repeat the same thing over and over. And how do you create a loop? Okay, I think I've already given us the idea in the loop. Yes, this is how you create a loop. A loop, you have initialization. We have to start with for loop, right? There are different types of loops. So we have for loops, while loops later. Okay, so have for just, so what you have, how do you create a loop? It's initialization. So initialize a loop. You do condition. updates. And then here you have the body of the loop. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So how do we initialize the loop? Okay, what is changing in this loop? What is changing here is just the index, right? So that will be our loop variable. That thing that's changing. The only thing that's changing here is the index. So what we need to do here, we'll say for, we'll initialize for, let's just call it index, but usually you see I or J, okay? Equal to 0 because that's what is going to, that's where it's going to start from. And where is it going to end? It will end in the last index, which is the last index of the string. So it doesn't matter the index of the string, the last index. So I'll just say index, as long as index is less than whatever, the word times dot length. Remember, a string dot length gives you the number of characters in the string. So if you have number of characters in the string, the last index is, if you have 4 characters, the last index is 3 because it comes from 0. Okay, so which means that this will give us 4. So as long as index is less than 4, so I want us to do something. Okay, so the update will be index plus 1. So index plus 1, and then mathematically this is not right? Well, this is not mathematics. So what this is happening here is that this is not the mathematical equation, right? It's not mathematical. This is just an update. Okay, you are just saying that whatever you have initially in the index, add 1 to it and put it back in the index. Okay, that's what you're saying here. Whatever you have in the index, that's the one. Whatever you have in the one you have on the right, that's the current value in the index. Add 1 to it. A current value, initially current value is 0. So now if you add 1 to 0, that'll be 1, and put it back in the index. Okay. So now what do we want to repeat? Okay, we want to repeat taking each character in the string. So I'll just say const character is equal to word index. Remember, this is how you get them. So we'll now put the index here. So this is what I saw, and then just be printing the character. So instead of printing 1, 2, 3, I just have to be printing the character because the value of the character index will keep changing. Okay, so I'll just print out chart. Okay, so I take the value of the character I store in this. Now remember, I took this, I store in first, I took that score, but this each time through this will be repeated several times. It will repeat when index is 0. That's the first time. So how this loop works is that it will check it will initialize the index and then check the condition. Is the index less than the length of the string? If that's the case, it's going to, whatever you put here is going to execute it. Okay. After that, this one will not be affected again. So it will not do anything here. It will not check this one again. It will now go to this update. So it will add 1 to that current index, which will now become 1, and then check again. Is it still less than the length? If that's the case, it will put the value of the new index and print again and do this again. Then next time again, it will increase the index again by 1 again. Now this time index is 2. It will check, is it still less than the word that length, which is 4, less than 4? Yes, less than 4. It will print again. Now it will increase again the index 1 again, which makes it 3. And then it's still less than worded length. Yeah, it will print this again. Now the last one it will increase again and that'll be 4. At this point, 4 is not less than 4. So this will give us false, and then it will just stop. Leave the loop. Okay, so let's see how that works. So I'm going to now go back, and we still have the same value. Okay, now let's even check if that's the case. Now I'm going to change this word to statement. You see, one program we've written. We don't have to change any of this. We just need to use the right thing. Now I go back, and then I now have all of this. Although now, because we're printing it here, so what we're going to do is let's print it an empty line. So sometimes you have this kind of thing in the loop, right? Whenever I have a loop now, all the things can be printed in one place. So that's why I can see 71 thing here. But let's see what we have if we print an empty line. So okay, remember this is a string, so we can always add a new line that we learned last time, /n, and again say undefined. Okay, so what's undefined? Let's see. Index. Okay, so yeah, so that's the problem. So we have changed. Let me just leave this one first. So you see there's a mistake in this code. We have changed the statement. We want to print out a statement, but we still have the word in the loop. Okay, so let's change that. Let's say undefined. And yes, we have all of that machine learning. Okay, so you can see we don't have to do much again. But you see how this one is not a good solution to the problem. It gives you the correct answer. So whenever you're solving a problem, and this is general thing, it's not only in programming, like whenever you're solving a problem, whether in engineering, whether in science, whether in government, whether it's the right that you have the right solution doesn't mean that you should solve it that way. It's that the particular keys give you the correct answer doesn't mean that you should solve it that way. You have to start thinking about the resources. How much resource will it take me to solve the problem this way? How much time will it take me to solve the problem this way? So even if the problem is giving the right answer and it takes a humongous amount of resources to solve it, then it doesn't make sense. So that such methods should not be used. Okay, but so you can see now that this method is not a good one. Okay, so we're not going to be splitting this. So rather, we need to write a loop. We need to write a loop that will do the whole thing for us. So here we can add as many things as we want here, as many characters as we want here, and it will always give us the answer. Okay, so this is just basically a solution to the problem. So what are we solving? Write a program that prints each character in a string on a separate line. Okay, so in this case, we give a separate example and say this statement will print on a separate line each character, and then we have all of that. Okay, so you always start small. Okay, this is a way we solve problems. So like I can say, I started with just 4 letters, so I can see, does it really work? If it works, then I know that I now extend it to more letters and see, is this still working? Okay, then yeah, I think I've solved it. Okay, so any question before we move to the next one? Okay, so that is it for this one. So let's look at another one again. So this one says, so we're going to still be making use of these two inputs, word and then statement, okay? Let me call this cyber. Okay, let me just say cyber. Okay. So yeah, write a program that prints only the characters at even positions. Okay. Okay, now let's use odd position because the next one talks about even position. Odd positions. So what do you mean by odd position? So remember, each character has a position. Like in the case we have 0, 1, 2, 3. 1 is odd, I believe. 3 is odd, and so on and so forth. So we don't know for any character, for any length of string, it doesn't matter the length, right? So 100 characters, we just want to print out values at, right? So if we look at this one, so that what that means is that if, again, this process is the same. So we'll try an example. Let's try an example. Why are we writing this example? It's to help us to really understand what we want to do. Okay, so otherwise you go be solving the wrong problem. Remember, I told you guys that when you are writing pro code, you don't go on to stop or start writing it. You need to analyze the problem, understand it, know the solution, then you translate it to code. Okay, so let's look at input in this case, cyber. Okay, so let's say we have a string cyber. So what do we expect as the output? Now, remember, all these are not part of the program. This is just for you to understand what you want to do, okay? So we expect what we expect. So the output we expect, this is position 0, position 1. We expect to have I. And then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this will only print out 2 letters. So this is what we expect as the output. Okay, so how do we do this? To be able to do this, we have to still go through all the strings, right? And check the index positions, right? We'll check the index position. Okay, is the index of this character, is it odd or even? Okay, so we still need to do the same thing. So basically, we'll write something similar. Okay, so I'll say let index, we'll still start from 0. Okay, I mean, this is one way to do it. We'll still start from 0. But do we need to start from 0? Yeah, but let's just start from 0 and then check the values. But we're going to use different methods to see. Okay, so again, same thing. So we're using a particular word here. Let's use the word, okay, dot length. You can say it just is basically the same thing, right? Index. But this one is a bit tricky, right? Because we're not just printing all the index. We'll have to print out only the one at odd numbers position. How do you do that? So there's a condition here that I say that you have to print out only the characters at odd numbers positions. Okay. So whenever you have a condition, you mean that you need if statements. Okay. So putting everything together, we'll explain them as we go. If statements. So we use if statements to express conditions and choices. Okay. So what do? We have to look at the index. If the index, all right, is divisible. So what are odd numbers? So again, we can say that you have to know what an odd number is. The computer does not know what an odd number is, and you have to tell the computer how to know an odd number. An odd number is a number that is what? Not divisible by 2, right? That will give you a remainder of 1 when divided by 2. You can say that. Okay, always give you a remainder of 1. So if index, so you can say, okay, divided by 2. I don't know. You can't really say that, because if you say divided by 2, what answer are you going to get? You can't say it's equal to 1. Okay. So how do you express remainder? Use the modulo sign. So this modulo sign just simply says that it gives you the remainder. Okay. So let me just call it like a const. Say remainder. Okay. So remainder, if you divide this by 2, this will give you the remainder. Okay, so let's store the remainder inside the remainder here and then use this. So if remainder is equal to 1, remember in JavaScript, this is how you check if something is equal. So use 3 of this. This is different from just 1. 1 says that put the value inside the index, but this one just said that whatever you have, the content of this, is it the same thing as the content as this value here? Okay, that's what it's saying here. The content of this, is it the same thing as this value? Okay, remember, if you divide the number and then by 2 and the remainder is 1, that number is an odd number. Okay, so if that is the case, if remainder is equal to 1, then that's when we want to print out console. Then we see the word, and then we put the index. Okay, because these are the places where the index is equal to. The index is odd. Okay, so I can just put. Can just say here that index is odd. Okay, so this is like you need to know it's just a little bit of maths. But like I said, now the maths you need in programming usually, especially when you're just doing you're not doing data science and all of that, right? So the maths you need is usually primary school and secondary school maths. So it's not really complicated. Yeah, it's only when you're doing data science, AI, then you now need some really advanced maths like matrices and determine so linear algebra and all of that. But you don't need, if you're just doing web development, mobile development, all those stuff that are not, you just need primary school and secondary school maths to do that. Okay. Yeah, so this brings it. So now the if statement, this only happens when the index is odd. Okay, otherwise nothing happens. Okay, that's what we have here. There's really nothing happened here. Nothing has to happen here. So if we go back here, we see that we have y and e. Okay, so we have y and e from the cyber. Now we have put a condition and saying, okay, we only want to print out. Yeah, we can also do the same thing for statement. statement will not be, yeah. So it's always better when you're solving a problem, start with something small. I have to repeat this over and over again, yeah. So we start this one because we know the answer to this one, so we know when we get it right. Okay, so you have to start with something that you know the answer without programming, without writing the code. You should know the answer to the problem without writing the code. A program will not just give you an answer. That you should at least know the answer for small cases, then you extend to larger cases. Okay, this is like for those that have done maths, it's like a mathematical induction. When you do mathematical induction, you prove for n equal to 1, and then you assume that the formula is true for some value k, and then you now make a conclusion later and say, oh, it's true for all cases. Okay, but you just start with the base case or simple cases. All right, so yeah, now that we know that we've gotten it right for this one, let's even increase this to cyber. Let me just say cyber security, for instance. Security. Okay, and it should still work. Okay, no, that's not where we have the value, so it's here. Okay, that's it. So I just say cyber security. Then we should still get there. And what's going on here? So stop. And this. Okay, so something is. Okay, yeah. So there's an error in our code, and that is here. So I wanted to simply put the word here. Okay. So sometimes you see this debugger. Debugger will pause your program and then start again. Let's see, refresh. So you can see YESCRT. So if we look at cybersecurity, this is 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. See, for 5, you see, position 5 is odd, 7 is odd, 9, 11 is odd as well. Okay, and 13. Okay, so we have those values. So now that we know that, okay, this is actually working because we know we can actually do it without even programming. We can know the odd numbers position without programming. We can then extend it to a larger one, the one that the computer, that's really what computers are made for, to do something that is no longer easy for us to do by simple calculation or something that's huge, okay, handle huge cases. So you can see now, this prints out, including the spaces, right? It prints out all the odd number position, okay? And so again, this is a condition. Whenever you have to choose between two things, all right, you have to make a choice. Yeah, so know that there is an if statement. So if in Python is pretty straightforward. In Python, you don't have to put all of these things here. Okay, you don't put you just indent it. So in Python, you have something like this. If let's say index is two, is you put 2 equals, right? It's got the 1. Okay. Yeah, so you can see it's giving error because it is not Python. Yeah, so you put 2 equals. Now JavaScript, take note, we're putting 3. We can also put 2, but don't worry about that one yet. Just be using 3 for now. Okay. But yeah, so again, this is not saying that remainder is equal to 1. It's just saying is remainder equal to 1 if it's either true or false. Okay, is it true or false that remainder is equal to 1? But here, this is saying that the remainder is equal to whatever value you get here, whatever remainder you get there. Okay, this is index divided by 2, remainder, the remainder of index divided by 2. That's what we're storing here. Okay, so it's not, it's you divide remainder by 2 and take the index by 2 and then take the remainder. Okay, and then store inside this remainder. That's what we're doing. Okay, the last one. Any questions so far before we go to the last one? Again, the order of becoming a bit more complicated, but we're going to move a bit faster here because we're going to be closing in a few minutes. All right, so again, this is just similar. Okay, I'm just going to comment it out so that we can concentrate on the current one. Okay, so in this case, write a program that changes every character at even position in a string to uppercase. Wow. Oh, so what does this mean? So again, we'll start with our example. So we have this input, for instance, we have this input. Let's say cyber again. Now this time it says at even position in a string. Okay, so we can argue that 0 is not even, right? So we just start with 2, 0, 1, 2. So B and R. So basically what we want as our output here is phi bar. Okay, this is what we want. That's our, sorry. Yeah, so because it's uppercase here, yeah. So we want to change the ones at even position to this. Okay. Again, but let's print it out. So because it's going to be, it's something I will explain later on, maybe our next class. But for now, what I want us to do is just basically just to print out this like this. So print out C, because C is uppercase the way it was, it is. Then we have to print out Y. And then when it comes to B, okay, when it comes to B, we have to print out this, okay? And then we still print out E. And then when we come to R, we have to print out R like this. Okay, so we're still printing out on different lines, okay? But we want to make some changes to the string before we print them out. Okay, in this case, if we see that, okay, the string is at even position, we just change it to uppercase before we print it out. Okay, so it's going to be very similar to this. So again, I'll do for you can see just repeating the same thing over and over, and that's one thing with programming, right? So by the time you repeat, and that's why at the point when you do this over and over and over, then someone seeing you say that, oh, you know a lot of things, but just because you have done it over and over, because programming language, it has very few vocabularies. Okay, so if you are using these vocabularies over and over and over and over, it becomes easy. Okay, so let's index again, start from 0 and index. So again, we're just using the word that we have, the word dot length. We don't want to pass, we don't want to go beyond the string. Okay, so again, index equals index plus 1. Okay, so what we need to do, again, there's a condition here. We have to know when we are at even position. All right, so this is now, again, like I said, an if statement. So this one has an if x statement. So the if part is, okay, it's not even, okay, no problem, it's odd, then we just print out the way it is. Okay, so I'll say it's still the same thing, right? So I can say const remainder. So if the remainder is equal to 1, so what do? We basically just print out the word, because this, if the remainder is equal to 1, we basically just print out the value. So we say log, okay, so we say word at position index. Okay, now here we now have what we call the else statement. So there are two things there. The other condition is like, just like say, okay, I want to drink water. Okay, I'll give you money, please buy water for me. If there's no water, I expect you to come back. Don't buy anything, right? Water. That's the if statement. But if you have to choose between two, I say, okay, if there's no water, please buy maybe a bottle of Coke, for instance. Okay, so that's the else part. So if the other one is not true, if a number is not even, then means that the number is odd generally. Okay, so in this case, the number here is odd, then we'll print out the word like that. In other cases now, we can say this, all right, we can actually say else if remainder is 0. So that means there's no remainder, which means that that's even, right? So the number, if there's no remainder when you divide by 2, that means that is even. So what we need to do, we can declare a new word and say new character, okay, and take the character, the current character, dot to uppercase. I think I mentioned this last time when you say to uppercase. So I am just changing this to the uppercase before printing it out. I'm saying console.log paragraph. Okay, so it's becoming a bit more, you don't have to write this here. You can write it like this, but I prefer to always write it just in the same line. But let's just make it clear that this is an else statement. Okay? But again, there's really no need to do this. Okay, there's really no need to say this else if. Because if it's not odd, then if it's not even, then it's odd. There are only two types of numbers, either odd or even number. Okay, so if it's not odd, even, so else. Okay, well, again, there's this small bug in this program. Okay, so let's go. And you can see that the cyber security, see the B is uppercase, R is uppercase, E is uppercase, U, I, and Y. Okay, those are even positions. So just change them before you print them. Okay, just change it to uppercase. But the other one, just print them the way they are. Okay, but let's see what happened. I'm going to change it to lowercase c. Okay, and see what happened. It will still give me uppercase. Okay, so that's a bug in this program, because if you divide a number by 0, it's going to give you the remainder is going to give you 0. So you say that 0 is not included in this one. Okay, 0 is not included in this one. So what we can do is that if index is not equal to 0. Okay, so we now put another condition there. Say, okay, it's not just anything that is not equal to 1, remainder 1, but now if also it's not equal to 0, then I want to print that. So you cannot see that again, it's just it doesn't even print out the C again, because that C position is 0. Again, that's not the right solution. That's the right solution here. So what do we do? Okay, so what we can do here, again, this is C is uppercase. Meanwhile, the CE here is lowercase. So why is it giving me uppercase? Because the condition holds for this one. So it said except it's equal to remainder is equal to 1. That's the only time you print out what it is. In other cases, you have to print out this. So what I can do here is, if the remainder is equal to 1, or I can say or, so put or here, put double slash like this. If or index is equal to 0. So when it's 0, okay, I just print the letter the way it is, okay, or when the remainder is 1. In other cases, which is just even numbers, so we should print out. So now you can see that the C now is lowercase. All right, so this is the end for today. So I just want us to show, just to take a look at some way of thinking about how to solve a programming problem. Okay, so it's just about getting that computational thinking, and that's what we are really working on here. How you think about it, how you take a look at it. Okay, so any question?
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, programming is actually very, very interesting. Programming is very, very interesting, yeah. But if you are looking at it from far, it looks scary. I begin to wonder, oh, why are all these things coming from where? But if we take it bit by bit as to the way we are taking it, going slowly and taking it, just try to do the exercises. That's the most important thing, like I said. Okay, try to do the exercises, and yeah, over time you get used to, because this is not like the normal way we do things in the real world. Like, why do we understand simple math? Because we have been doing math from primary school. Okay, so certain things, when they say fraction, you already know what it is. When you say, but the same thing when you do programming for 1, 2 years, 3 years, at a point you now see that, oh, these are just basic stuff. It becomes very, very basic. Yeah, so when you're not doing that advanced stuff, yeah, you see that. Okay, like this now. This is, we're going to do this later on anyway. So this is a progress bar. Like all this, when you try to upload something and then it give you stuff like that. So this is this is JavaScript. Okay, so we're going to eventually just keep on with all these things we're learning, right? You can see you're already familiar with cons. We're declaring cons, and we're okay. No, we've not really done this, but this is just basically getting the image the page. And then this declaring cons. You can say this is an if statement. Okay, we are using simple way, but you're going to see how to use it in a real program. Okay, this is a simple if statement. This is an X if, which I also illustrated, and then this is else. Okay, so when you check a program, it's just basically the same, because a programming language does not have a lot of vocabulary. It's not like the English is a natural language where you have many things, like a big dictionary that has a lot of different things. You will have the same thing repeated over and over and over, and that is the magic of computing. So you see a computer will move a plane, move this, and then you see that the vocabulary, so you're just using small vocabulary to accomplish a lot of things. Okay, you're using just a small vocabulary to accomplish a lot of things. Okay, you can see here this map.run, just rounding numbers to the nearest 100. Okay, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so I mean, it's just, you can see const here again, const here, which is what we're learning these things bit by bit. So a time will come, will just become easy. Okay. All right. So any question? So if there is no question, I will see you guys next week. Yeah, I will try later on today. I'm going to put this on the Git, what's it called? Gist. Okay. So you guys should also take note of these tools. Okay. So Gist. So let's put it here. Okay, this is not my Gist. Yeah, but basically I'll put on Gist, and that's why you guys can see it and can take a look at it. All right, so that's it for me today, and thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you guys again. Try to do the assignment, please. Just try to do something, and then so that you can show next time. And if you have any issue, because that's really the only way you can. Just like you want to go and be a mechanic, and the only thing you do is just be looking at the car. You don't unscrew something. You don't touch anything. Just be looking. You can't really learn much from that. Okay, you have to do it in yourself. See the mistakes you're making and correct it to yourself. All right, guys. So I'll see you guys. Bye.
All right, good, thanks.
When they share half late, on a half late. When we do the rest.